Okay, I'm gonna do my vulnerability video on the beach. I just got done with talking to my friend Renee, and I was like, I gotta do it before it gets dark. But we had such a great conversation. Just talk about life and moving our lives forward and positivity and things like that and in our lives. And I really, honestly, I wasn't quite sure what I was like gonna talk about. I'm like, maybe I won't do one, but I was like, no, I said I was gonna, and it's important that we follow through with the things that we say we're gonna do, right? So, I found a feather, so I'm just gonna, that's a synchronicity sign. It's meant to be. So I'm just gonna listen to my soul. I'm just gonna talk and see what comes out of my mouth. Sometimes that's a surprise, like chef surprise. Was funny? In school, we used to have that on the school menu, chef surprise. Usually it was shepherd's pie. It was good. Sometimes pizza. I always love pizza day. And, along with that, I was thinking, I was like, just how important it is to channel like the good things in our life and the good moments and the things that, we can look back on and that made us happy and we felt hopeful and, and made us feel good. Because I really do believe that is the purpose, like doing things in our life that make us feel good. But we're not taught like even like who we are, or how to get to know ourselves, so we can get to that place in our lives. And that's, I believe, why we end up with such a disrupted nervous system, and we don't make good choices, and we spend a lot of our life, unhappy, truly. And for some, like, unfortunately, and my mom was one of them, she was never able to come to full awareness before she passed. And that I think about that sometimes because it makes me sad, like when I think about that, because I have. And I just know how wonderful it feels. And it really, really is a wonderful feeling. Like, even before, I was dancing on the beach, and I just, to this song, and I may record myself dancing to it again, because I've danced to it once before, but I'm like, you know what, I've gotten better. I kind of feel like, because as a little girl, I grew up in Maine, so when I would watch the Olympics, I would go ice skating. That was our thing. And so I would watch the Olympics, and I would just like pretend I was, a professional ice skater, because I wanted to be and do the twirls and stuff. But I always would get dizzy. But I realize now it's because I wasn't in alignment. My body never was. Most of us aren't, because we're not taught how to breathe. We're not taught how to stay in alignment. Like, naturally, it comes right as a baby and as a kid, as we learn and grow. That's why we're flexible and stuff, and we're meant to stay that way. But then we're taught it's weird, and no, we're not, and and then we get less connected to the ground and to the earth, and then we get hurt, and then we're stuck at 90 degrees, and we can't even bend without our back being sore. Think about it. But you know what? You can undo it. And I've undone it, because I used to be like that. I my whole life I've been in the bodybuilding world. I've never competed, because I just don't, that wasn't something for me. I had considered it, for my 40th birthday. I thought that would be fun. But then I was like, no, because I'm not going to take anything. And I vowed to be natural. And I don't need someone to tell me that I'm good enough. I want to figure that out on my own. It was expensive. And I'm like, and it's not even judged right. It actually, honestly, to be quite honest, it plays with people's insecurities, because it's like, the judges judge if your nail color is a specific thing, or height, your heel has to be a height. That has nothing to do with you as a person, and nothing to do with how you live your life and your physique, which is really what matters the most. I'm not going to pay, and I'm going to pay someone for you to tell me if I'm good enough, when half of these people are overweight and lead horrible lives, have addictions, unhealthy addictions, and I'm looking at you to tell me if I'm good. No, puff pass, man. No, I'm really seeing things for what they are, and I realize that. And it's nothing bad, because to each his own, and people want to do that. But what I'm saying is, I'm coming to awareness in things in my life, and I'm really taking my power back, and it's making a difference. And I'm really believing in myself and telling myself good things, learning how to set healthy boundaries. And it matters. It matters, getting to know our body more, doing what feels good, like, even though it's going to mean sometimes like doing the uncomfortable thing, right? Which is something that I had to do these past few days. But I was at a place, I was ready. And I'm learning how not to force things, but I was ready. I was ready to leave that place in that chapter of my life behind, because I realized, like, I just wasn't aligned. And sometimes that happens. You know, everything in our life happens for a reason. You know, we have these experiences. They teach us to learn, to help us to like learn and grow, right? But unfortunately, some people like just don't learn and grow at the same pace or the same place, and there's just certain things I realize, like, and I was talking to my friend Renee about this, I'm just not allowing in my life anymore, because our mindset and what we have in our personal space does affect our reality. And that doesn't mean that I don't have love for someone and all that, because that's not true, but it just means that I'm not going to accept that in my life anymore, because if I do that, I'm welcoming it. So we create our reality. We really, really do, by the things that we say, by the decisions that we make. And when we don't take accountability and we don't try to get in alignment, mind, body, spirit. And you know what? This weekend I was talking about that at work, and one of the salesmen had mentioned, like, that makes sense about that being the Trinity. I was like, you know what? That's right. It's internal. It's an internal mind, body, spirit alignment, which is the Trinity. It's a trifecta. It's a triangle. You have to have, it has to all connect. You cannot be lacking one and not the other. Like, people try to make excuses. No, there's no excuse. There's no excuse for giving up on yourself physically. There's no excuse for giving up on yourself mentally. And there's no excuse for giving up on yourself spiritually, because we are mind, body, spirit creatures. And if we were to do that, what is that saying about how we value ourselves? What type of life do you think that you're going to create when we're doing these things to ourselves and refusing to take accountability and have self-awareness and see the areas? And you know what? There's no shame in it. But we're made to believe that somehow it's not right to make a mistake. Like, I was scared. You know, and those things were ingrained in me, that like I couldn't say certain words, and if I felt a certain way, that meant I was bad and I was abnormal, and God was gonna secretly, like, he could watch me and he was gonna strike me dead, and all these things. That's horrible when you think about it. But you see, like, you create that, and like, I thought that was normal, and I actually would justify it in my mind. I'm like, no, this is really a good thing. And you know what? My reality was different, and I created my reality based on my thought system. But I always wanted to do the right thing, and I'm grateful for all of the lessons I learned and all the things it taught me and stuff. And then I realized, but that just wasn't for me. So I take the things out of my life and my experiences of the things I want to keep, right, that I use, that are gonna, you know, that I feel are valuable for my life. And then I take the other things that maybe weren't, and I use them as lessons to help me become aware. But I really always try to be honest and take an honest self-examination and assess areas. But I'm also to the point, you know, like I said, having love and light is great, but then there's times when you got to stand up for yourself and say, hell no, we won't go. Like, no, that's shitty. You ain't gonna treat me like that. I don't care if everyone in the world acts that way. You are responsible for yourself. And I tell you, I'm proud that I taught my kids that. I did teach them accountability. Whether they apply it in their life, that's on them. I'm grateful that they have. You know, we all go through phases where we do stupid shit. That's normal. We gotta let people be. Right? But then there comes a point in your life where it's like, no, you know, like, learn your lesson the first time, but if we keep repeating these unhealthy, this is why, you know, like I said, we stay stuck and we don't move forward. And so the tools that I've used is honestly, first of all, really the prayer part, to pray, because it's true, we all have, you know, higher self, God, whatever you want to call it. It's whatever you feel comfortable with, but it is there. And we should talk to ourselves, and we should encourage ourselves. Why are we looking to other people that know nothing about us? Why are we looking to others to guide our lives when they don't really know how we feel? They don't know our bodies inside. Only you can say that. But do you see? And that teaches us to become codependent in life. To honestly think about it. It starts at a very young age. I mean, think about it, from birth, we're given a name. I mean, I guess, you know, we got to be called something, but, you know, it's like we have all these rules and all these things, and taught how to be, and taught how to think and how to feel, and what we're going to, and according to where we are born is what we decide of what we believe. And then we adapt these things as like the truth, and that's certainty, and that's how it is. But that's not true, because in someone else's world, they feel different. In their world, it's right. And you know what? They're right. And that's what I'm saying. It all leads to the same. But we got to learn how to decide for ourselves what we feel is right, and that's different for everybody. And it just feels good to be at that place because it feels freeing. And when I can express that out, and be proud of myself, and that's not been easy, for me. And sometimes in life, the things and the decisions that we have to make are not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. But when we do it the right thing, and how we know it's the right thing is by praying for the clarity and the guidance, looking for the signs like the feather. And then I listen to my intuition and I go from there. And it works out every time. Even if I don't understand it, because trust me, when I look back, like just a year ago, like I said, just sitting out here, I would have these major breakdowns. I would break down in my car so many times. I would cry at work. I would have to go when I would go in the bathroom, I would cry, because I sometimes didn't understand why these things were happening in my life. Wow, you can give you can give love to someone, or you can have these experiences and they don't work out. But then I realized life is always about a lesson, and I can't get angry because these are things that I allow. But I cannot allow it. And I've got to learn how to speak up before it gets to the point where damage is done. You know what I'm saying? We got to learn how to assess these things in our life so we can spot things before we allow it in our personal space. Because once we do that, then that's what creates chaos. And we're misaligned, and then we're feeling stuck, and then we feel obligated, and then we're confused, and then that develops into unhealthy addictions and coping mechanisms because we weren't taught how to process things right. Do you see? Because we're not feeling good. Most of us, we don't even know who we are. I didn't. But again, that doesn't make it okay, because our roles, I believe, and our responsibilities to others is once we come to awareness, is sometimes we have to be the one to call that shit out. Because it's not okay to mistreat someone. There's no excuse in the world. There's no, learning how to have healthy communication, especially as we get older and we have children, because we're setting an example. And it's important to have self-awareness, and we really truly do lead by example. How we are is how our kids end up, most cases. Either they're going to adapt, or they do the complete opposite because we screwed them up so much they don't want to be nothing like us, and then that means we're going to have broken relationships, because then they're going to resent us because we messed up, and then we're so stubborn we can't take accountability and admit that we did anything wrong, which anyone in life only ever wants a genuine apology, right? Think about it. Kids, before they get messed up, they naturally know how to treat each other. You watch them. When a little kid goes up to a little kid and hugs them and says they're sorry, they go, "It's okay. It's okay." They always forgive. They're very forgiving. But it's our traumas and it's our things that we're not processing and we're not learning in life that are causing us to harden our hearts, to shut down, to push people away, to ghost people, to not have healthy communication skills, to not do the hard thing in our own lives, because it starts with us. If we can't learn how to speak, how are we going to learn how to have a healthy relationship with anybody else? You won't. It's not possible. So lead by example is the way. And you know what? It's a win-win, because our goal in life, right? Our responsibility to ourselves is to get into mind, body, spirit alignment. And I don't understand why people are fighting it, because all it's going to do is make your life better. My life is so much better. Physically, I feel better. My hair is so much healthier. I mean, all the girls at work know it. They see me every day and I feel it. My skin's getting better naturally. I don't wear any makeup anymore. I just found this cool healthy mascara that I love because I think it does add a little, but I make my own face oil, I make my own stuff, I get to decide for myself. I'm healthier. Me taking the time to get to know myself is actually making so much more peace in my life, and it's less work. Initially, it's a lot of work because it means facing our traumas physically. It means getting rid of the unhealthy stuff in our bodies that we've been stuffing down, physically and mentally from our experiences, because we do store emotions in our body. And so initially, yes, it's a lot. There were times when I sat here and cried and didn't know how I was going to make it through the night. I didn't know what to do, but I prayed. I sat here, I prayed, I cried. I felt my emotions, and I knew that everything was happening, and I had a higher purpose, and I wasn't going to give up on myself. Even sometimes I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel this way. Why? And then I would go, no, Kimberly, don't give up on yourself. Don't do that. This is a test. That's what I tell myself. And it does work. So it's basically learning things in your own life. And I don't know what that is, but what I'm saying is these are the tools that I use, and these are the things that have worked for me. And I look at your life, and instead of looking to other people and other things, look at your life, look at your everyday life, and find ways in which you can try to be more meaningful with your time. Like, I try to make every experience a mind, body, spirit experience. Like, I'm training something physically, mentally, spiritually. When I'm down at the beach, like doing this. This is, I'm healing my body physically, mentally, and spiritually. I get to talk about things. I'm sitting outside. I'm by the tree. I already put my feet on the tree. I have my feet in the water. I got that healing. I danced on the beach. So wherever I go, whatever I do, I try to be mindful and aware. And then I try to really finding ways in my life that I'm allowing all these unhealthy distractions that I can pull away from. And I can take it and use it to help me learn and grow, whether it's watching something educational on TV. So maybe sometimes I want to watch TV, but I don't want to watch like violence, and I don't want to watch things that aren't going to help my life. So I'll put on and learn. I've been learning a lot. I've actually been learning a lot about real history, real things, not things that were told and that aren't, that are made up. I'm going to be honest. They're made up. Well, they're misconstrued. I don't want to say that. That's may not be true, but they're misconstrued. And I'm listening to my soul, so I'm really learning, and then I assess for myself. So I do my own research, I assess for myself, then I pray about it. So I'll do my own research, I think about it, and I'm like, that makes sense. And then I'll ponder it in my head, and then I'm like, I had to pray about it because I don't know, because I want to make sure I do the right thing. And then I pray, and then I look for the signs, and then I'll know. My gut will tell me either yay or nay. Or either I got to do this or don't do that, or maybe I gotta send that uncomfortable message, or maybe I got to make that phone call, or maybe I got to do, it's something in my life. Like that's sort of, and you know what? By me applying those methods, it has helped me to sort out my life for me, because I didn't even know who I was. I was living my life for other people. That's why my life was so messed up, and I had all these unhealthy addictions. Seriously. And I'm being honest, and it's time we should be honest with ourselves, because if we don't start being honest with ourselves, when are you going to start? When it's too late? When damage is done? No, that ain't going to be me. If people want to be that way, be that way. I'm serious. I'm to that place. But I'm not having that in my personal space, because to me that's an unhealthy mindset. I will never give up on myself. Even at times when I felt like I wanted to, I would not let it come out of my mouth. I won't. Even in the hardest times in my life, from being widowed, having to make the decision to stop drinking because it wasn't healthy for me in my life. I was fine if I was without it, but then I would binge, and I was like, well, I really wasn't fine because I was just avoiding. I thought by staying away from it, it was helping, but I needed it at the time to stay away from it, and I thought that's what it was, but it really was avoiding, because it wasn't healthy. I wasn't dealing with things in my life. Because once we do, we start naturally pulling away from that stuff. You see, as you work on your internal stuff, the stuff on the external will naturally start falling away, and you're going to want to, you don't have to force it. You don't have to stress. You don't have to worry so much, but we're taught to do the opposite first, you see. And I know I've said this before, but I feel like it needs to be said again, because sometimes we need to hear things more than once, because in order to make a change, it takes consistency. And that's the other thing. Like, we need consistency in life. We should be consistent with ourselves. We should be consistent with others. We should be consistent, in life. I can't tell you how many people I see giving up on themselves, that stop going to the gym and stop doing these things, all these things to stop, and that's not right. I will say that is one thing about me. I never gave up. I will never give up on myself. Like, and my kids know it. I've always worked to try to take care of myself physically. I sometimes unhealthy obsessions. It would be too much, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. right? And I'm grateful I taught my kids that. We would take spin class together. I'd take them to the gym. We did spin. That was fun. They were good at it. It was fun. It was our family time. See, I made it a mind, body, spirit experience. And you know something? That's something that they'll always remember. I instilled in them a healthy mindset to try. I'm not saying that, I'm obviously more self-aware now, and the way I approach things and the way I handle things is different, and more fine-tuned. But I always try to do that because it's the right thing, and that's what we should be doing for each other. And I'm not going to allow others to drag me down. I'm just not. If you want to be poopy and treat people poopy, go for it. Treat them that way, but you won't be treating me that way because that's not okay. And we got to learn how to be able to say that because there's no reason to be unkind. There's no reason to use people. There's no reason that you can't speak and you can't, treat people with respect and kindness. If you can't do that, then that's what I'm saying. Honest self-examination here, right? Because it's not up to other people to have to deal and face our problems. That's not right. Because of our trauma and our unhealed stuff. So we take that out on other people. You see what they say about projecting? That's what that means. And we do it. I can admit it. I did it too. And I still do it sometimes. But when I come to awareness, I come to self-awareness, I fix it. I will apologize. I'll fix my way. I see areas in my life. I don't, I look at how that experience can shape me and the things I can learn from it and how I can do different or be better. That's how we should be. So that was it. I guess, you know what? That's what I wanted to say. What do you think? I think it was pretty good. I'm pretty proud of myself. I got to say, I was quite triggered earlier because, just from my experience that I've had to face over these last couple of days, and it brought up some not emotion like it did before, but it's like, honestly, a little bit of frustration, anger. I'm not going to lie. Hurt, disappointment, things. And I wasn't sure, and sometimes we get in that little, sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to be that way, and you got to be, listen, no. Like I said, hell no, we won't go. But then repair, right? And then we got to center ourselves and think, but also know that setting boundaries is healthy. And if someone doesn't respect that, if someone chooses to not respond to that, that's on them, not you. And to remember that, because we also can take on other people's issues and guilt and shame and problems, and no, that's not right. Not when you work hard to solve yours, right? And there's nothing wrong with saying that. It's all how we say it. So on that note, I'm going to say good night and have a magical Monday.